The party was in full swing. A kaleidoscope of fairy lights danced across the manicured backyard, casting a warm glow over clusters of laughing guests. In the midst of the chatter, I stood nursing a drink, scanning the crowd for her. My wife, Emily. She'd excused herself a few minutes ago to help with the dessert, but her absence felt longer than necessary. A sharp laugh snapped me out of my thoughts. Turning my gaze toward the patio, I spotted her. Emily stood by the kitchen door, her golden dress shimmering in the light, her laughter floating over the crowd. Beside her was Jacob, my cousin and supposed confidant, his arm resting too casually on the counter near her. They were smiling, their eyes meeting with a familiarity that tightened a knot in my chest. I tried to dismiss the flicker of suspicion as paranoia. Jacob was family, after all. But then I noticed Emily's hand linger briefly on his arm as she leaned in, her voice dropping low enough that I couldn't hear. Jacob's grin widened. A storm brewed inside me, but I forced a calm expression and made my way toward them. "Everything all right here?" I asked, keeping my tone light. Emily turned quickly, her face a practiced mask of innocence. "Of course, darling. Jacob was just telling me about his latest trip to Paris." Jacob nodded, his smile a little too self-assured. "You should join next time, Alex. The nightlife is incredible." I didn't miss the slight twitch of his lip, the way his words hung in the air as if daring me to question his intentions. My gut screamed that something was amiss, but I swallowed my doubts and plastered on a polite smile. "Sounds great. Let's grab another drink, shall we?" Emily hesitated, glancing at Jacob, then back at me. "Sure," she said, her voice steady but lacking warmth. The seed of doubt that night, as we lay in bed, I replayed the scene in my mind. Emily was beside me, scrolling through her phone, her face illuminated by the glow of the screen. I studied her profile, the slight furrow in her brow, the way she smoothed her hair behind her ear absent-mindedly. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She didn't look up. "Yeah, just checking an email from work." I nodded but said nothing. A sinking feeling told me that I was being lied to, but I didn't have proof yet. The next morning, I decided to investigate. While Emily showered, I unlocked her phone, an action that felt both invasive and necessary. My stomach churned as I navigated to her messages. Most were harmless, but one thread stood out: Jacob. Scrolling through, I found a string of messages that made my blood run cold. "Jacob, last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again." Emily, "Same. Let's meet Thursday at the cabin. Alex will be at the office late." My hands shook as I read the words over and over, the truth sinking in. They were having an affair, right under my nose. A calculated move by the time Emily emerged from the shower. I had already locked her phone and composed myself. My mind raced, devising a plan. Confronting them immediately wouldn't satisfy me. No, I wanted them to regret their betrayal in a way that would shake their very foundations. I spent the next few days laying the groundwork. I installed discrete cameras in the cabin Emily and Jacob used for their rendezvous, ensuring I'd capture undeniable proof of their affair. Then, I began sowing seeds of doubt among our mutual friends, casually mentioning how distant Emily had seemed lately or how Jacob had been unusually attentive toward her. My friends listened but didn't comment, their raised eyebrows and exchanged glances confirming that they, too, had noticed something amiss. Thursday arrived. I left for work as usual, kissing Emily goodbye as she cheerfully reminded me she'd be catching up with a friend later. Her tone was so convincing, so confident, that I almost doubted my own evidence. Instead of going to the office, I parked a few blocks from the cabin and waited. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in hues of orange and gold, I spotted Emily's car pulling up. Moments later, Jacob arrived. They entered the cabin together, and I knew I was about to witness the truth in all its ugliness. The betrayal unveiled. I watched the live feed on my phone, every movement within the cabin recorded in high definition. Emily and Jacob embraced, their laughter echoing in the small space. They poured wine, clinking glasses in a toast that felt like a dagger to my heart. I didn't look away, Not when their touches became more intimate. Not when their words turned to whispers of promises and plans. Every second fueled the fire of my resolve. When they finally left the cabin, their faces flushed and oblivious, I remained in my car, letting them believe their secret was safe. But I wasn't done. I had what I needed to dismantle the illusion they had built. Back home, Emily greeted me with the same radiant smile she had worn so often, a smile I now saw as a mask for deceit. I played along, pretending nothing had changed, but inside, I was already calculating my next move. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming control of a life they had tried to destroy. The morning after I'd watched my wife and cousin betray me in the cabin, I woke up with a sense of cold determination. Emily moved about the house as though nothing had changed, humming a tune as she brewed coffee. The sound was jarring. It was a cruel mockery of the life I'd thought we shared. I sat at the table, my laptop open, reviewing the footage I'd recorded. Every laugh, every touch, every whisper between Emily and Jacob was captured in vivid detail. Watching it again stoked the embers of my resolve. "Are you okay?" Emily asked, setting a cup of coffee in front of me. Her tone was sweet, but I caught a flicker of concern in her eyes. "Just a lot on my plate at work," I said, offering a tired smile. She nodded, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Don't push yourself too hard, okay?" The touch felt like acid on my skin. I forced a neutral expression and returned to my screen. If she suspected anything, she didn't show it. Planting the seeds at work, I began discreetly contacting close friends and family, dropping hints about Jacob's behavior. "You know, Jacob has been acting odd lately," I said to my sister, Anna, over lunch. "Have you noticed how much time he's been spending with Emily?" Anna frowned, her fork hovering mid-air. "Now that you mention it, he has been a little too friendly. Is everything okay?" "Not sure," I replied, keeping my tone casual. "But it's probably nothing." By the time our conversation ended, I knew Anna would start piecing things together on her own. At home, I mirrored this subtle approach with Emily. "I ran into Jacob today," I mentioned offhandedly during dinner. "He seemed distracted. Everything all right with him?" Emily's hand froze halfway to her glass of wine. "Oh, he's been stressed with work," she said, too quickly. Her voice lacked the easy confidence she usually displayed. "Ah," I replied, watching her squirm under my gaze. A public revelation. I waited for the perfect opportunity to set my plan in motion. That opportunity came a week later when we hosted a small dinner party with close friends and family. Emily had insisted on the gathering, and I agreed, knowing it would serve my purpose. The evening was pleasant at first. Emily floated through the room, charming our guests with her usual grace, while Jacob arrived late, flashing his characteristic smirk. I watched them carefully, noting the subtle glances they exchanged when they thought no one was looking. After dinner, as we gathered in the living room, I stood and clinked my glass for attention. "I want to share something with all of you," I began, my voice steady. Emily's smile faltered, and Jacob's brow furrowed. "Emily and Jacob have been working on something behind my back," I said, letting the words hang in the air. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to the two of them. Emily's cheeks flushed. "Alex, what are you?" I cut her off by connecting my phone to the television. With a few taps, the video of their tryst played on the screen. Gasps filled the room as the damning footage unfolded. Emily jumped to her feet, her face pale. "Turn that off," she shouted. Jacob stammered. "This is a misunderstanding. Alex, don't insult everyone's intelligence," I said coldly, my voice rising. "You thought you could betray me, humiliate me, and walk away unscathed?" Emily looked around the room, her eyes pleading with our stunned guests. "It's not what it looks like. Alex, please, can we talk about this privately?" I shook my head. "You made this public the moment you brought it into our lives. Now everyone can see the truth." Fallout. The aftermath of my revelation was chaotic. Emily fled the room in tears, followed closely by Jacob, who avoided everyone's accusing stares. The party ended abruptly, with friends and family whispering among themselves as they left. In the silence that followed, I sat in the living room, sipping the whiskey I'd poured to steady my nerves. My phone buzzed with messages, some offering sympathy, others expressing disbelief. Anna's message stood out. "I'm so sorry, Alex. If you need anything, I'm here." I replied with a simple thank you, appreciating her support even as I braced myself for what came next. The legal maneuver the following morning, I called my lawyer. "I want to file for divorce," I said without hesitation. "Understood," she replied. "Do you have any evidence of misconduct?" "Oh, I have plenty," I said, forwarding the incriminating footage. Within days, the wheels were in motion. I ensured Emily would be served divorce papers in the most humiliating way possible, during her lunch break at her favorite cafe, where she often met with friends. My lawyer assured me we had a strong case. With the evidence I'd gathered, I was entitled to a favorable settlement. But money wasn't my primary goal. I wanted Emily and Jacob to face the consequences of their actions. As I hung up the phone, I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. They had underestimated me, and now they would pay for their betrayal. Emily's carefully curated world began to crumble the moment she was served the divorce papers. Sitting at the corner table of her favorite cafe, she had been laughing with her friends when the server handed her the envelope. As she opened it, her face turned ashen, and the room seemed to hold its breath. "Divorce?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her friends leaned in, whispering amongst themselves as she fled the cafe, leaving her untouched latte behind. At the same time, Jacob's troubles were multiplying. Word of his involvement with Emily spread quickly, thanks to Anna and a few other family members who couldn't resist sharing the juicy gossip. He started receiving cold stares at work and avoided family gatherings, knowing he would be met with judgment and disdain. For the first time, I felt the balance of power shift in my favor. A legal and personal offensive Emily's lawyer reached out days later, requesting mediation. "She's devastated," he explained. "She wants to discuss an amicable settlement." I scoffed at the suggestion. Amicable? After what she's done. Instead, I doubled down, ensuring the divorce terms left her with as little leverage as possible. My lawyer, a shark in the courtroom, tore apart Emily's claims, highlighting the betrayal and her moral failings. Meanwhile, I moved swiftly to sever financial ties. Joint accounts were frozen and credit cards canceled. I wasn't going to make it easy for her to walk away from what she had done, but my revenge didn't end there. Jacob's reckoning. Jacob had always prided himself on his job, a managerial position in a prestigious firm. His smug confidence was one of the reasons I had suspected him all along. I sent an anonymous email to his employer, attaching snippets of the footage and detailing his betrayal. Within a week, he was called into a meeting with HR. While they couldn't fire him for his personal life, the scandal tarnished his reputation, making him a liability to the company. He was demoted, his role reduced to a desk job with little responsibility. When I heard the news through mutual acquaintances, I felt a grim satisfaction. Jacob had taken something precious from me, and now I had taken something equally valuable from him. Emily's desperation. Emily called me late one evening, her voice a mix of anger and desperation. "Alex, what are you trying to do? You're ruining my life." I chuckled coldly. "You ruined your life the moment you decided to betray me." "I made a mistake," she pleaded. "But this is cruel." "Cruel?" I snapped. "Cruel is lying to my face while sneaking around with my cousin. Cruel is destroying our marriage for a fleeting thrill. Don't talk to me about cruelty, Emily." She started sobbing, but I felt no sympathy. "You wanted freedom," I said. "Now you can have it, without me." Jacob and Emily's alliance crumbles unsurprisingly. The pressure began to take its toll on Jacob and Emily's relationship. What had started as a passionate affair was now strained by the weight of public shame and financial instability. They moved in together, but their new life was far from the romantic fantasy they had imagined. Emily's lavish spending habits clashed with Jacob's reduced income, leading to frequent arguments. The once perfect pair was now a toxic mess of blame and resentment. One night, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a video. It showed Emily and Jacob arguing in a parking lot, their voices raised for all to hear. "You said this would be worth it," Emily shouted. Jacob threw his hands in the air. I didn't think he'd come after us like this. I couldn't help but laugh. They had underestimated me, and now they were paying the price. An unexpected ally amid the chaos. I received a call from Anna. "You've made your point, Alex," she said, her tone firm but compassionate. "They're miserable. What more do you want?" I sighed, the weight of the past weeks catching up to me. "I don't know," I admitted. "I thought revenge would make me feel better. But it doesn't," Anna finished. "You're better than this. Let them destroy each other. You have a chance to rebuild your life. Don't waste it on them." Her words stayed with me long after the call ended. For the first time, I wondered if my obsession with revenge was holding me back. A moment of reflection one evening, I sat in the quiet of my living room, surrounded by the remnants of a life I no longer recognized. The family photos on the walls felt like relics of another era, their smiles mocking the reality of betrayal. For weeks, I had been consumed by anger, pouring my energy into making Emily and Jacob pay. But as I stared at the empty space where her things used to be, I realized I needed more than revenge. I needed closure. The morning sunlight streamed through my half-empty house, casting long shadows that mirrored the hollow feeling inside me. For weeks, my life had revolved around dismantling Emily's and Jacob's worlds. Now, with the dust settling, I realized how much I'd neglected myself. It was time to reclaim my life. Stepping into the future, I started with simple things: organizing the house, removing Emily's remaining belongings, and reclaiming the spaces she once dominated. Her perfume, her clothes, and even her favorite mugs were all boxed up and sent away. Each item removed felt like shedding a layer of the pain she had left behind. I returned to hobbies I'd forgotten: reading, running, and even cooking for myself instead of ordering takeout. The quiet evenings that once felt suffocating became a solace. Despite my newfound focus, I couldn't fully escape the storm I had unleashed. Emily and Jacob's public downfall through mutual friends and whispers around town. I learned that Emily and Jacob's lives were unraveling at an astonishing pace. They had been evicted from their upscale apartment, unable to afford the rent after Jacob's demotion. They moved into a modest, run-down place on the edge of town, a stark contrast to the life Emily had once enjoyed. Their relationship, once fueled by passion and secrecy, was now riddled with arguments and blame. Emily accused Jacob of not standing up to me, while Jacob blamed her for destroying my trust and their futures. They were made for each other, I thought with a bitter smile. A shocking revelation one afternoon. Anna called. Her voice was tense. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Try me," I replied, half expecting another tale of Emily and Jacob's downward spiral. "Emily's been seeing someone else," Anna revealed. I froze, the irony too rich to process. "Wait, she's cheating on Jacob?" "Looks like it," Anna said. "I heard it from someone at work. Apparently, it's a guy she met through her gym." The news shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Emily's insatiable need for attention and validation was what led her to Jacob in the first place. Now, she was repeating the pattern. As much as I loathed Jacob, I couldn't help but pity him. An unexpected encounter weeks later, I ran into Jacob at the grocery store. He looked tired and disheveled, his once pristine appearance now a shadow of what it had been. "Alex," he said, his voice hesitant. "Jacob," I replied, my tone cold but civil. "I know I don't have the right to ask for your forgiveness," he began, his gaze fixed on the floor. "But I need you to know how sorry I am." His apology caught me off guard. For a moment, I considered unleashing my anger on him. But as I looked at him, beaten down and full of regret, I realized I didn't need to. "I hope you've learned something from this," I said before walking away. Emily's desperation the next day, Emily called. I hadn't spoken to her in months and considered ignoring the call. But curiosity got the better of me. "Alex," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you." "About what?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "I made a mistake," she admitted. "I ruined everything and now I have nothing." Her words should have given me satisfaction, but they didn't. Instead, they filled me with a strange sense of finality. "Emily," I said, my voice steady, You made your choices, and you have to live with them. I'm done letting you drag me into your mess. For the first time, I felt free. Rediscovery and renewal. With Emily's chapter finally closed, I focused on building a life that was truly mine. I reconnected with old friends, started volunteering at a local shelter, and even joined a photography class, a passion I'd always wanted to explore. It was during one of these classes that I met Claire. She was smart, kind, and refreshingly honest. There was no pretense, no games, just genuine connection. As our friendship deepened, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: hope. The final blow months later, I heard that Jacob had left Emily after discovering her affair. She was now living alone, her once vibrant social circle reduced to whispers of gossip and judgment. The woman who had once believed she could have it all, wealth, freedom, and love, was now left with nothing. As for me, I realized that revenge wasn't what had healed me. It was moving forward. Emily and Jacob's downfall was their own doing. My life, now filled with peace and promise, was my ultimate victory. The months following Emily's departure brought a mixture of peace and unexpected challenges. With her and Jacob's downfall no longer dominating my thoughts, I could focus on myself. Yet, the wounds they left behind still lingered, refusing to heal as quickly as I'd hoped. The meeting request. One crisp autumn morning, a message popped up on my phone from an unknown number. It was from Emily. "I need to talk to you, Alex. Please, just one meeting. It's important." My first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity gnawed at me. What could she possibly have to say now? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a cafe downtown, a neutral space where I could walk away easily if things got heated. When I arrived, Emily was already there, nervously stirring her coffee. She looked different, her once polished and vibrant aura replaced with a fragile demeanor. The confrontation. "Thanks for coming," she said softly as I took a seat across from her. "Make it quick," I replied, my tone cold but controlled. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "I know I've done terrible things, Alex, and I know I have no right to ask for anything, but I needed to apologize to you face to face." I raised an eyebrow. Apologize? For what exactly? For cheating? For lying? For trying to destroy my life? Her eyes filled with tears. All of it. I don't know what I was thinking. I was selfish, and I let my insecurities ruin everything we had. Her words, though sincere, didn't stir the reaction she might have hoped for. Instead of anger or forgiveness, I felt nothing but a hollow sense of pity. A shocking revelation, but then, she dropped a bombshell I hadn't expected. Jacob wasn't the only one, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you talking about?" I asked, leaning forward. "There were others," she confessed, her gaze fixed on the table. "Even before Jacob. I didn't think you'd ever find out, but I can't keep it from you anymore. You deserve to know." Her admission hit me like a freight train. I had spent so long fixated on her betrayal with Jacob that I hadn't considered the possibility of more. "How many?" I asked, my voice steady but cold. She hesitated, then mumbled, "3, including Jacob." My mind raced. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the years of deception, the lies woven into the fabric of our marriage. Standing firm, "Why are you telling me this now?" I demanded, my anger finally surfacing. "Because I can't live with it anymore," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I've lost everything, Alex. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know how sorry I am." I stared at her, feeling a mix of rage and relief. Rage at her audacity, but relief that I was no longer shackled by her lies. "You're right about one thing, Emily," I said, standing up. "You've lost everything, and I've finally realized that none of it was my fault. That's on you." With that, I walked out of the cafe, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions alone. Closure in unexpected places. In the weeks that followed, I found solace in the life I was rebuilding. Emily's confession, though painful, gave me the clarity I needed to move forward without regret or lingering questions. I focused on my photography, pouring my emotions into capturing moments of beauty and resilience. Through my lens, I began to see the world and myself in a new light. A new connection. One evening at a photography exhibit, I met someone unexpected. Her name was Mia, an artist whose work captured the quiet strength of the human spirit. We struck up a conversation that lasted well into the night, our shared passions creating an instant connection. Mia wasn't just a distraction. She was a reminder that life could begin again, even after heartbreak. Life with Mia felt like a breath of fresh air, a stark contrast to the chaos Emily had left behind. Mia's presence was gentle yet grounding, her laughter infectious, and her creativity inspiring. For the first time in years, I felt like I was living rather than merely surviving. But life, with its penchant for the unpredictable, had more surprises in store. A ghost from the past. One afternoon, while I was at a cafe with Mia discussing an upcoming photography project, my phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. I hesitated, but eventually picked up. "Alex?" The voice on the other end was weak, trembling. It was Emily. "What do you want?" I asked, my tone sharp. I need your help," she stammered, her words punctuated by quiet sobs. "I know I don't deserve it, but there's no one else I can turn to." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her later that evening. Curiosity and a lingering sense of responsibility outweighed my resolve to sever all ties. The shocking plea. When I arrived at the rundown motel she was staying in, Emily looked like a shadow of her former self. Her once vibrant appearance was replaced with tired eyes and a gaunt frame. "I'm in trouble," she admitted, wringing her hands nervously. "What kind of trouble?" I asked, crossing my arms. "Jacob," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He's not who I thought he was. After everything fell apart, I found out he's been involved in shady dealings. And now, he's threatening me." Her words stunned me. For a moment, I felt a pang of pity, but it quickly gave way to suspicion. "And why should I care?" I asked. "Because I'm scared for my life," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I know I've hurt you, Alex, but I have no one else to turn to. Please." Her desperation was palpable, but my trust in her was non-existent. An unsettling discovery. Reluctantly, I agreed to help her gather her belongings from Jacob's apartment, where she claimed he was holding her things hostage. When we arrived, the apartment was eerily quiet. Emily fumbled with the keys, her hands trembling as she unlocked the door. The sight that greeted us was nothing short of shocking. The living room was trashed, furniture overturned, glass shattered, and papers scattered everywhere. Among the chaos was a collection of photographs, many of which were of me. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, holding up a photo of myself that had clearly been taken without my knowledge. Emily's face turned pale. "I don't know. I've never seen these before." My anger flared. "You expect me to believe that? After everything?" Before she could respond, a noise from the back room made us both freeze. A dangerous encounter. Jacob emerged, his face contorted with rage. Well, look who decided to pay a visit," he sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "What is this, Jacob?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. "Insurance," he said coldly, gesturing to the photos. "I figured if you tried to run, I'd make sure your little ex-husband here stayed in the picture." My blood ran cold as I realized the depths of his manipulation. "Get out of my way," I said, my tone firm. Jacob laughed. "Or what? You think you can walk in here and play hero?" The tension was thick, the room charged with unspoken threats. But before things could escalate further, I noticed Emily subtly nod toward the door. A narrow escape seizing the moment, I grabbed a nearby lamp and swung it toward Jacob, catching him off guard. Emily and I bolted for the door, racing down the hall and out onto the street. We didn't stop running until we were several blocks away, both of us gasping for breath. "What the hell were you thinking, getting involved with someone like him?" I demanded. "I didn't know," she cried. "I thought he was different." Her tears did little to soften my anger. "You've made your bed, Emily. Don't expect me to keep saving you from it." A new chapter that night, as I recounted the events to Mia, her steady presence reassured me. Do you think she's really done with him? Mia asked. I don't know, I admitted, but I can't let her drag me back into her mess. Mia nodded, her hand resting on mine. You've come too far to let the past pull you under again. Her words were a reminder of how much I had rebuilt, and how much more I still had to look forward to. The final message a week later. I received a message from Emily. I'm leaving town. For good this time. Thank you for helping me, Alex. I hope you find the happiness I couldn't give you. For the first time, I felt a sense of closure. Not because she was gone, but because I finally understood that my happiness didn't depend on her. As Mia and I planned our next adventure, I realized that life's twists and turns, no matter how painful, had led me to a place of strength and clarity. Weeks passed after Emily's desperate plea for help and our chaotic escape from Jacob's clutches. The drama seemed to fade into the background of my life, and I focused on building my future with Mia. Yet, as life has a way of doing, an unexpected turn shattered the peace I thought I had found. A sudden revelation one quiet evening, while Mia and I were flipping through her photography portfolio in the cozy living room, my phone buzzed. It was a private number. Hello? I answered cautiously. Alex. The voice on the other end was hesitant but familiar. Emily. What now? I asked, irritation tinging my tone. There's something you need to know, she said urgently. It's about Jacob and me. I sighed heavily, my patience already fraying. Emily, I'm done with this. Whatever mess you've gotten yourself into, it's not just about me, she interrupted, her voice trembling. It's about you, Alex. And Mia. Her words sent a chill through me. A hidden connection reluctantly, I agreed to meet Emily at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. She looked even more haggard than the last time I'd seen her, her eyes darting nervously around the room as she sat down. Spit it out, I said, crossing my arms. She leaned in, her voice low. Jacob was using me to get to you. What are you talking about? I asked, my patience thinning. He's not just some guy I met after our marriage fell apart, she confessed. He's been digging into your life for months, ever since you started dating Mia. He wanted something from you, something to do with her. Her words made no sense. Why would Jacob care about Mia? Because she's not who you think she is, Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mia's secrets, Emily's cryptic warning refused to leave my mind. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mia noticed my unease and asked what was wrong, but I deflected. The next day, I decided to do some digging of my own. If what Emily said was true, there had to be something, anything, that could clarify her claims. I started by searching online for any connections between Mia and Jacob, but nothing came up. Frustrated, I turned to the one thing I'd avoided until now. Emily's journal. Tucked away in an old box, the journal held fragments of her thoughts from our marriage. As I flipped through its pages, one entry caught my eye. Met Jacob today. He's been asking about Alex's new girlfriend. He says she's part of something bigger, but I don't know what to believe. The words sent a shiver down my spine. What could Jacob have possibly meant? Confrontation unable to keep my suspicions bottled up any longer. I confronted Mia that evening. Is there something you're not telling me? I asked, trying to keep my tone even. She looked genuinely surprised. What are you talking about? Jacob, Emily. They're saying you're not who you claim to be, I said, watching her reaction carefully. Mia's face darkened, and for a moment, I thought she might deny it. But then she sighed heavily and sat down. There's something I've been meaning to tell you, she began, her voice steady but somber. My heart raced. I used to know Jacob, she admitted, years ago before I moved here. He wasn't the man you've met. Back then, he was charming, ambitious, but manipulative. When I left him, I thought I'd escaped. I didn't think he'd ever find me again. And you didn't think to mention this? I demanded. I didn't want to drag you into it, she said, her eyes pleading. I love you, Alex. I didn't want my past to ruin what we have. The final piece, her confession, felt like a puzzle piece snapping into place, but the picture it revealed was far from complete. Emily's warnings, Jacob's obsession, and Mia's hidden past all pointed to something much bigger. Determined to get to the bottom of it, I reached out to Greg, my old college friend who had helped me after my split with Emily. Together, we devised a plan to confront Jacob once and for all. Greg's tech-savvy connections traced Jacob's recent activities to a remote property outside town. It was a risk, but I knew the only way to put this chapter of my life behind me was to face him directly. Into the lion's den on a stormy night, Greg and I arrived at the property. The house was dark, its windows reflecting the flashes of lightning. Armed with nothing but our resolve and a recording device, we stepped inside. Jacob was waiting for us. Well, he drawled, his smirk as cold as the rain outside. I didn't expect a house call. You've been meddling in my life for too long, I said, my voice steady. It ends tonight. Jacob laughed, the sound echoing eerily. You think you're the hero of this story, Alex? You have no idea what's really going on. His words only fueled my anger. Then why don't you enlighten me? The confrontation escalated as Jacob revealed his true intentions. His obsession with Mia wasn't about love, it was about revenge. She had exposed his illegal dealings years ago, and he had lost everything because of her. You took my life, he snarled at Mia, who had arrived moments after us. And now I'll take yours. A shocking twist, but Jacob's plans unraveled faster than he could anticipate. Unbeknownst to him, Greg had called the authorities, who arrived just in time to catch Jacob red-handed as he threatened us. As he was led away in handcuffs, Jacob's last words sent a chill through the air. This isn't over. But for Mia and me, it finally felt like the storm had passed.